Hey everyone, welcome back to the Roto Grinders Morning Grind podcast. I'm your host, Stevie TPFL. It's Tuesday, June 14th, and speaking of 14, we have 14 games tonight, so interesting. One noon game, we're just going to completely avoid that game. I don't know what they're thinking there, but we're not going to talk about that game. There's no slates for it. If there is, they're up way later than what they should have been, so just going to avoid that and talk about these 14 games. And I thought it was a really interesting tournament slate, so I contacted one of my tournament friends here, and the Siege. How you doing, my friend?
I'm good. How are you? Here's my analysis for the early slate. It's really simple. Stack Toronto.
Are you sure after what we've seen?
Positive. Kid making his MLB debut. I'm pretty sure he's a lefty. Fair assumption to say just stack Toronto.
Sure. Or fade the whole slate.
Well, that's what most people would do, but if you're really desperate and you want to play it, there you go. There's your analysis.
All right. That works. We're sponsored by FantasyDraft.com. If you guys haven't checked out Fantasy Draft, make sure you head on over to Fantasy Draft. Check them out. They got a lot of action up tonight, $8,000 home run, and they have a Survive and Advance tournament, which is by far my favorite tournaments. $10 this time around, which I like that a little bit more, and you're only going to see people with 4 entry max on this thing, so it's a really fun tournament. Make sure you guys check that out. If you haven't signed up there, use promo code GRINDERS. That way you get incentives here at Roto Grinders for Fantasy Draft for free for a year, and you get a 100% deposit bonus up to $600. That out of the way, CJ, I don't want to spend too much time, but you ever get in a situation where you're always on a team? You have that one team that you're always on, and for some reason, just it wasn't the night that you were on them and they explode.
Yeah, I had it happen tonight, but it's not the same team as yours.
Yeah, Miami, man. I talk about the Marlins more than anybody, I feel like, and I play them and stack them all the time. It's because they can do stuff like what they're doing tonight. It's 12-2 in the 5th inning when we're starting the podcast, and I have no exposure to the Marlins tonight.
Yeah, the A's are up 10-2 after 4 at bats, and I have no exposure either against a terrible lefty. I don't know what I was thinking, but
all right, well, I'm sure you're frustrated just like I am, so let's move on and let's get it back here on this Tuesday slate. It's an interesting slate. We're going to start with Chicago at Washington. John Lackey, Gio Gonzalez. Man, the Cubs, they struck out a ton against Max Scherzer last night. Is this a spot that you might look at Gio?
I'd never roster Gio. If there's a slate where Gio is the chalk, I play tournaments and I fade him. And if there's a slate where I want to play Gio, I just go do something else.
I don't like him as well. He's just so inconsistent. It's hard to like him. What's your thoughts here on Lackey?
The Nationals are one of my sneaky stacks of the day. I really like this spot for them, especially on Fantasy Draft where their prices are lowered, and I think it's a really good spot to pick on John Lackey here.
Yeah, the thing is, who are you really going to pick on him with? They're not going to pitch to Harper if they don't have to.
Murphy, Ramos. I'm gonna take the bats behind Harper, and I don't even mind Harper in this spot. I think John Lackey's a little too thick-headed to just pitch around. Unless he gets an order to walk him, he's going to try to challenge him. That's just John Lackey's thing, and John Lackey's going to start giving up home runs again that he always has in his career. He's not suddenly turning into Cy Young. I think this is a really good spot for it to start.
If his price was down, I would consider him. I really would. It's just he's pitched really well this season. He excelled with 11 strikeouts against Washington earlier this season. So I'm not really going to pick on him here. If I do, I'm with you. I think it's Murphy as a one-off tournament play, but I really don't want a lot of exposure to the Washington bats here.
Yeah, it's a pure stack I just feel like the price is so low on these guys that it's a spot to target because it's going to be low owned, and then I can pay up at pitching because the pitching mid-tier just really isn't that strong. So I'm looking for high upside offenses that allow me to pay up at pitching.
Yeah, I guess I can get behind that. Gio, he's pretty cheap over on draft. I still don't have an interest over there. Is there any Washington bats that you – no, not Washington. Is there any Cubs bats that you want here against Gio?
Yeah, you can play all the righties. I think it's a perfectly fine stack to stack the Cubs, thinking they're going to come back, maybe slightly low ownership. Everyone watched the Scherzer game. I don't mind a Bryant, a Zobrist. Those type of guys are perfectly fine.
Yeah, Bryant would be my favorite here. Fowler, Zobrist, those guys hit left-handed pitching really well. So I don't mind them. I really don't mind the Cubs here. I don't like Gio, so I don't mind some of these Cubs bats, but I'm not going to go crazy on them. It's a 14-game slate. We have a game in Coors. I'm not going to go crazy on the Cubs, and I don't know if they honestly are going to be, able to keep up with some of these other offenses.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Like, I don't think they're going to finish in the bottom, but what are the odds they really finish at the top on the night? I'm not quite sure it's that high.
Cincinnati at Atlanta. This is a game that, last night we talked about it on the podcast yesterday. I was super high on this game, super high on Freddie Freeman, and it went exactly how I thought it was going to go. I didn't think it was going to be, 15 plus runs total in this game, but I thought it was going to be high scoring. Any interest in Teheran or Finnegan here?
I think it's an interesting spot for both guys. I mean, first of all, you've got the game that just shot out tonight, so that's in people's minds. So you've got the recency bias there. And lefties against the Braves have just been like automatic, you plug and play. And they've priced up Finnegan to the point here on Fantasy Draft where you got to think about it. But every lefty just destroys the Braves every single time. Even Friedrich went out and we liked him that day, but we didn't think he was going to go out and just destroy them like he did. I think I'm in on Finnegan, and Teheran struggles against the lefties, and the Reds really only have one or two of those that scare me.
Yeah, my biggest issue here is game temp at the start of the game is 93 degrees, same as what we saw, yesterday. And why that shouldn't get you off of people, the ball flies when it's hot, and that's hot, man. 93 at game time at 7 o'clock. Another thing is a lot of rain. It's still, man, it's early. We're doing this podcast the night before. We're not really looking at rain or anything like that, but a lot of rain forecasted for this game. If the rain kind of stays off, I can't hate the Finnegan play, man. The Braves they're awful. Like who on the Braves hurts a lefty, and you have nobody outside of Garcia.
Yeah, and the random Tyler Flowers home run when you play the lefty that just annoys you.
Flowers he's a hot and cold hitter. I think he's starting to cool down a little bit. Garcia, he would be the one guy that I'd look at here for Atlanta. He's only 6K over on draft.
Yeah, the only reason I would ever play him is if I was in a custom league where it required me to play one Braves hitter.
Or if you don't, if you're wanting to punt or something, 6K on draft is not terrible for a 4-hitter.
No, absolutely not. It's a perfectly fine option as well.
Yeah, you mentioned Reds bats. Who are you really going to take here? I'm going to continue to say Adam Duvall. Until he slows down, I'm going to play him every day. And he's 3,200 on FanDuel today.
Oh, man, that is just that just feels trap. I understand it. I understand it's been hot, but Teheran against right-handed bats is just too good for me to, especially at that low price. It's going to up the ownership a bit. I think I'm going to pass on a 14-game slate.
If I feel like he's going to be higher owned than what usually he is, then I'll probably pass as well.
What do you think what do you consider his normal ownership? Like 8%?
He's been in the 7 to like 14 range. He was 15 tonight, Monday night. So if I feel like he's going to be in that 15 range again, yeah, I think I'll be off of him.
Yeah, it's just tough on a 14-game slate. He could easily end up like 6 or 7, or it could end up 11 or 12, and I just feel like I'm not going to be able to make that decision before I see it after lock, which isn't very helpful.
Yeah, what's your thoughts on Votto and Bruce here? Like you said, when he does struggle, it's against lefties. Do you have any interest in these two guys?
Votto at 7,600 on Fantasy Draft just feels really, really too cheap.
Agree. Yeah, that's why I kind of wanted to bring him up under 8K. The Fantasy Draft plays every day, the 3 guys that I give out, I was really considering him as one of them at 7,600. Saw the weather, and I didn't want to kind of wash out one of those plays. If the game plays with no rain and it's 93 degrees at first pitch, I feel like Votto's definitely an option here, especially on the road batting second.
Even if like it's one of those things where there'll be delays but not canceled, that would make me higher on Votto. Like you might get less Teheran innings, which would make it even a better play.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. And one thing that we want to note, these bullpens are so bad. Both of these teams, their bullpens are just awful.
Yeah, the bullpens are some of the worst in the league. I thought it was just the Reds, but the Braves, they really went toe for toe today on those bad bullpens. Let me tell you, they did a great job today keeping up with the Reds.
You know what would be interesting would be Oh, I love Grossman. Grossman just hit a home run, and I told you before the show I needed that so bad. Anyway, sorry, didn't mean to sidetrack. I just happened to look over and it happened. But anyway, so the interesting thing here is if Kevin Roth is really high on maybe like a early mid game delay or something, then I think I would be really interested in these bats. You're going to get them at low ownership because people are going to be off of it because of the rain. And if it's something that clears afterwards, wouldn't that interest you even more?
Yeah, actually, I might just talk myself into a red stack depending on weather, because then you can play Adam Duvall, then you can go play the righties too. You're not limited just to the lefties.
Oh, that home run was awesome. All right, moving on. Seattle at Tampa. Not really a downgraded upgrade, any kind of upgrade or downgrade here for Seattle when you're talking ballparks. We have Odorizzi and Walker. I think you can make an argument for Walker. What's your thoughts here?
I think you can make a case for both guys. This kind of reminds me of the Matt Moore Dallas Keuchel game where you looked at the total Sunday morning and you went, this game is a 7.5 total. I kind of feel the same way with Walker and Odorizzi. Tampa being the favorite actually gets me some interest in Odorizzi. Both are moderately priced. Both have some decent upside. I don't mind it, especially on a slate without a real strong middle tier. If you need to end up in this middle tier, I don't mind any of those two.
Yeah, honestly, I think I'm with you. I think I still favor Walker. I think he's worth the extra $1,300 as an SP2 on draft just because he has the better offense behind him. Like, I think Odorizzi could excel in this matchup, but he's still facing, guys like Cano and Cruz and Seager. So, when we look at Walker, he's facing Longoria, Dickerson, Steve Pearce.
Yeah, I just think Odorizzi's the safer guy, giving up 2 or less now in 4 or 5, and the other start was 3 earned runs.
That's fair.
Ks are up. I just feel like he's the safer option.
No, and I think that's fair. And if you really want to get into it, and I can help your cause here, Odorizzi, when he excels, it's usually against lefties, which when we're looking at this lineup, there's going to be 6, maybe 7 lefties in this lineup?
Yeah, at least. Yeah, 7 probably realistically.
So, I can get behind I can help your point. I just think I can't think safe in cash games, CJ. I've never been able to, really think that way. And I feel like just Walker has more upside here with Tampa's strikeout rate.
Yo, he definitely does. He just is so.
I think I'm hoping.
I just never get that guy right. I don't play him in the 11K game. I'll play him the game he gets 2. Why is Tampa favored in this game? That just bugs me.
I don't know. I like another thing that I like about Walker here is this is extra rest game for him. So he's on a 6-day rest. I think the neck injury is finally there. I feel like he's the guy for the upside. I think I definitely agree with you as far as safe goes. I think Odorizzi's a little safer.
Yeah, I understand chasing the upside, and it's not like I don't like Walker. He just scares me every time I click his name.
Oh, well, obviously. He could easily get blown up. Any bats that you like from either side here?
Yeah, not really. That's kind of why I kind of like both. There's 14 games, one's Coors. I could find a better spot than this game.
And we got a game in Boston. We got a game in Arizona. Hey, and we have a game at Petco where obviously you can score a bunch of runs if you're the Marlins. But yeah, I don't like the bats here either.
One guy I like if he starts, and this is eventually going to start happening because he's just hitting too good not to. If Dahel Lee gets the start and they play Nelson Cruz and right, I mean, he's 5,600, and you mentioned Odorizzi when he struggles, it's the right-handed bats, and this guy just mashes it every time he gets to the plate.
I like Lee. I talk about him all the time. I don't think they'll play him over Lind here, but
I'm hoping they play both. Just play both.
Oh, yeah, they do get the DH. Yeah, that's a good point. They could definitely have Lee in there.
I mean, they did it once, and it worked great. They scored 8 runs, and they haven't gone back to it. And it's just come on. He's crushing the ball. He's got 10 home runs in the season already. That's ridiculous for a part-time guy.
It's very rare to see Nelson Cruz play the field, though, so it'd be interesting. But let's move on to the next game here. Pittsburgh at New York. Jacob deGrom, Juan Nicasio.
It's actually not Nicasio. They made a change.
Oh, okay.
Talion.
Who? Oh, really?
Yeah.
So that makes it a lot more interesting, I think. Give me your thoughts on deGrom here.
As long as it's not Rene Rivera behind the plate. I'm serious. Every time I break the rule, it just doesn't work out. If Rene Rivera is behind the plate, you fade. I don't care if he's the only pitcher on the slate. I'll pick a bullpen guy.
Me and you talk about it on Twitter so much. Like, it's a real thing. I don't care what anybody says. It's real, right?
It's so real. It's consistently real. It happens every single time. And it's just like, it's the same thing over and over. Like, as soon as runners get on base, he just can't call anything else other than the fastball. So it's fine when there's runners on, but when he gets in a jam, it just turns into fastball, and major league hitters can adjust to that.
Now, looking at the other side of thing, Talon on Fantasy Draft is 16.8. I don't know if I really want. Might have a little interest. The Mets bats are just so cold, but he's $4,600 on FanDuel on a core slate. What's his ownership going to be against the Mets?
Oh, I had not noticed that.
4,600 with Coors Field.
Oh my!
Against the
not
cold
that I
offense.
don't believe you. I just have to see this for my own eyes.
Yeah, he's still not the probable pitcher. That's why I had Nicasio.
That's why I have to click it up. Oh
Just-
my goodness,
That's
4,600. Oh goodness. 30%.
I think it's going to be that. I think I'm agreeing with you, man. I think he's going to be really popular.
Oh, I really hope they don't like formalize it till tomorrow. That'd be great. Like, let the morning people not be able to realize he's starting. That's if you're playing on FanDuel and you're stacking cores, you just have to use him.
Yeah, differentiate yourself with the other four bats, right?
Yeah, I would not get cute there. I just don't think you can.
He did make his first start against New York. He did not look bad in that game. 6 hits, 6 innings, only 3 strikeouts in that game. It's really, really tough to say, but if you're saying he's the guy that's starting here, it's hard not to like him.
Yeah. And on FanDuel, actually, I think the ownership will be lower. I forgot Brandon Finnegan's only 6'1" over there. I think he'll get a lot of love over there at 6'1" too. So that might help.
So let's talk bats. Anything really stand out to you here?
I probably will have him if I end up on a ton of I don't know. How do you pronounce that name? I meant to look.
Talon?
Yeah. If he gets a start, I'll have a Met stack purely as a hedge because I'm probably just going to have a lot of him.
Yeah.
In my tournament teams. So other than that, I can't. Again, if Rene Rivera's there, maybe I'll put a Pirate stack out there, but that's about it.
Even if Rivera's back there, I don't know if I can stack against DeGrom.
He's so bad. I know.
He's so bad, but
he's just so bad. Especially, I probably would just play Gregory Polanco because I know he'll get a fastball and he can just drive it out.
That's true.
That would probably be what I would. That's probably the more optimal approach.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Let's talk Baltimore at Boston. David Price, Chris Tillman. Chris Tillman pitching really well this season. David Price. Is this a spot that you would pay up for Price here?
I think both of these guys are interesting tournament options. Even Tillman. I know the Red Sox offense is one of the best out there, but when you're 8-1 on the season and pitching like he is, you should be more expensive than 7,400. I don't care if you're facing the All-Star team. I just think that there's merit here in tournaments. He's been pitching good. Why can't he continue to pitch good here in this spot?
Yeah, and I know you're a believer in BVP as well. Tillman has a lot of success against the Red Sox. I think the only person that's hitting even close to 300 against him is Jackie Bradley Jr. I have a lot of interest in Tillman in tournaments here. I don't think he'll be highly owned. He's cheap, and like you said, there's no reason a guy that's 8-1 that's pitching out of his mind, almost averaging a strikeout per inning, should be that cheap.
Yeah, it's not like that. This is like his BVP is inflated by this year. He hasn't faced the Red Sox yet this year, and he's been better this year. So I definitely think it's a way to go in tournaments just to chase upside. When you stack cores, you just eventually need to get upside from your pitchers. You can't pay up, obviously. Well, you might be able to on this slate just because the Yankees pricing, but we'll get there. But if you can't, I really think the upside here at 7,400 for him is higher than anywhere else in this price range.
I can't, man. I don't know if I can take Price here. I hate this game in general. Like, I'm with you. I think both these pitchers, I might have some exposure in tournaments, but outside of that, I really don't love the bats. Trumbo maybe as a one-off tournament play, just because he's just mashing the baseball this year.
I think I have more interest in Price if Machado's suspension starts.
That would make sense too. I don't know, man. It's a tough game. Like I said, I'll have exposure to both these pitchers. I like Tillman a little bit more than I like Price.
Yeah, I agree with you there for sure.
Detroit at Chicago taking on the White Sox.
Zimmerman. And by the way, we have no interest in the bats. I don't think we have any interest in the bats.
Yeah, like I said, Trumbo is a one-off, right?
Yeah, for the Red Sox side, I just went because we like Tillman, but I'm just not stacking against Tillman on a 14-game slate.
Yeah, and that's crazy because I'm sure the total is going to be favorable to the Red Sox. It
is. It already is. But you know what? You got to take a stand somewhere on a 14-game slate, and I'm perfectly happy. I'm funny. It's like I'm known on Twitter now as like the Red Sox hater, as like a Red Sox fan, but I'm not going there today.
Yeah, I'm not either, and I'm always for a Red Sox stack. I just don't know if tonight's the night. Detroit at Chicago taking the White Sox. Jordan Zimmerman, Miguel Gonzalez. A game that I like a ton here on the slate when we have a Coors game, and I think batters are going to be overlooked. I think this game's going to go overlooked even after a really high-scoring game, last night.
Yeah, that just depends on how many innings this thing goes. If this same game starts going like 14, 15 innings, my interest in the Tigers and White Sox hitters will drop exponentially just because I don't know what they'll do with the lineups tomorrow. But, I mean, shout out to Miguel Gonzalez. He treated me really well his last start against Washington. But the Tigers are a slightly harder matchup, although he actually really does destroy right-handed bats.
Yeah, I think he lasted one inning last time against Detroit.
That was a relief appearance. I'm pretty sure.
Was it?
Yeah.
Well, you ruined my mojo there.
Sorry, buddy.
It's okay. I'll allow it this one time. I don't like Miguel Gonzalez. I think he stinks. Against lefties and righties, he stinks. Love the Detroit Tigers here. Any interest in Zimmerman?
No.
The regression's hitting him, right? Like it's finally happening.
Yeah, it took long enough, and I think this is a good spot to target some Chicago lefties like Adam Eaton as a one-off and Melky Cabrera as a one-off.
Yeah, and Jose Abreu's hot. He's warming up at the plate. I think he's an interesting play as well. We know he had the home run last night, multi-hit, in 4 out of the last 6 going into last night. I like Abreu here as a tournament play.
Yeah, I think Abreu is an interesting spot here. He's been hitting the ball really, really well. Go ahead.
No, you're fine. Go.
I was going to say, I'm actually thinking, I was just trying to decide if I really wanted to say this, but I could just see this being a JB Shuck game. This has JB Shuck game written all over it. Righty who has trouble against lefties. Shuck will bat like 6th. He'll be unowned. He's 5.4K on draft. I could just see him having one of those just does everything games, and you look back and you just say, wow, he just crushed value.
Yeah, but he doesn't even have a extra base hit this season.
I know, but I'm going on a limb. I'm going on a major limb here. I think he has a big game tomorrow.
I'll allow it. That's fine. Whatever. If that's how you feel, that's how you feel. So I can get behind it in that sense. But I won't be playing him. Every day I give out 3 guys that I like under 8K. You actually mentioned this guy, so you're stealing my thunder a little bit. But I love Adam Eaton here at 7,200 on draft. It's just too cheap for Adam Eaton and what he's been able to do lately.
Yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and lock him in. As we do this show, I normally do my preliminary cash lineup. We can just go ahead and click that name right in there.
I like Cameron Maybin at 7,200 as well. I actually debated those 2 guys.
Yeah, I actually thought you were going to tell me you had 2 from this game. Wouldn't have surprised me. But, yeah, I don't mind him. I think I would rather play Melky at 6K, to be honest.
Melky's cheap as well. I noticed that. There's a lot of value in this game. It's one of the games that I've projected to be in the top 5 in runs scored tonight.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think it's treated that way, too. It's actually the second highest total on the slate, and I think that's absolutely correct.
Yeah, I think they nail it with that. Let's talk Detroit bats here. I already mentioned I like Maybin. He's been batting in that 2 spot. He's been hitting the ball really well. Dude, what's your thoughts on Ian Kinsler? He's mashing the baseball this season. I'm
not paying that price for him. I said that tonight, and he just led off with the game with a home run. That's fine. I'm just not paying 10-9 for him. That's just blatant insanity. I'll find somebody else at second base. Just not doing it.
Yeah, I played him in cash on FanDuel. He was actually pretty popular. I was kind of shocked by that. 31 fantasy points tonight. I don't hate him, and if I feel like I'm going to get him at a low ownership because of his price, I don't hate him even more. I like the stack here for Detroit. It's a stack that I'm definitely going to roll out here on the slate.
Yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense for all the obvious reasons you talked about. How Coors Field is going to be super popular, and that second and third games normally are just lower owned than normal, so I don't mind it.
And that's another game to pay attention to the rain. It's the night before. Pay attention to that. Cleveland at Kansas City. Josh Tomlin, Chris Young. Oh, buddy, two guys that give up a lot of hard contact and a lot of fly balls. Any interest here at Kansas City?
It's just the wrong ballpark to target these guys.
No. It's so frustrating because I love targeting Tomlin, but I think he actually is an interesting option tonight.
Yeah, I rostered him in that Seattle game, and it wasn't like the end of the world. That was that awful pitching slate night. I think you're going to need more upside on this slate than him. I like targeting him on those short slates where you're not going to need upside to win. On a big 14-game slate, I just can't go there.
Yeah, I can see that. Man, so let's talk bats here. We'll start with Cleveland. They're the visiting team. Anything that really stands out to you here against Chris Young?
It's the wrong ballpark. I mean, I wouldn't mind a Kipnis or a Lindor one-off, but I really can't start endorsing stacks in Kansas City when we've got Coors on the board.
Yeah, Kipnis continues to be really cheap on FanDuel, 3,200. I think he's a guy you could honestly look at in cash games here in this matchup.
Yeah, I mean, saving 1,200 off of Kinsler, for example, just is so like on FanDuel, for example, I'm playing if Matt Carpenter's in the lineup, I'm playing Matt Carpenter over Ian Kinsler 100 times out of 100.
Fair point. Anything that really stands out to you here for Kansas City?
No.
I'm so mad.
We talk about cross-off games. This kind of just feels like a cross-off game.
I'm so mad. I talk about Merrifield every day, and I said that if one person hurt Carrasco yesterday, I said it was going to be Merrifield, and of course, he hurt him, and I had zero exposure to him.
Yeah, I mean, this is Witt's world, and we just live in it at this point.
I think he's an interesting play on draft. I think he's cheap, and I think Lorenzo Cain are cheap. If I had to pick a place to play those two guys, definitely be over there at 6,300 and 6,400.
Another great pivot option off of Ian Kinsler.
Houston at St. Louis, Jaime Garcia, Doug Fister. You kind of alluded to Matt Carpenter, so I'm guessing you like the Cardinals bats. Any interest in Garcia or Fister here?
It's going to be 93 and muggy here tomorrow in St. Louis. This is the ball is going to fly out of the park game, and it is going to go completely overlooked.
Yeah, I'm seeing here almost through the whole game, it's going to be 90 plus.
This is my sneaky stack. CJ might stack both sides of this game and watch the fly balls leave the park.
I like that call, man. I'm looking at weather as we go here. That's a really great call. Let's talk Houston first. They're the visiting team. We necessarily don't like pitchers, so we don't like Doug Fister here. But let's talk some bats here. Houston against a lefty. Gotta like George Springer, right?
Yeah, and Jaime's hurt. I don't care what he keeps telling the media. You just look at his ground ball to fly ball rate. Like the two starts, he went 12 ground balls, 1 fly ball, 15 ground balls, 4 fly balls. In the Milwaukee game was 10 and 5. That's where kind of the alarm bell started being raised. Last game, 8 ground balls, 7 fly balls. If he gives up fly balls to Houston in this spot, it's going to be a bonanza for every single Houston guy.
Yeah, he's given up 40 hits over his last 5 starts. Like, if that doesn't tell you anything, that's massive, dude.
Yeah, it's just – and actually that Jaime start against Arizona was the other hot, muggy day here in St. Louis. It was a Sunday. I remember it now. So, yeah, I definitely think this is a good spot to target bats.
Yep, I can get behind the Houston stack. Like – Altuve, what do we do with him? His price is so high, but can you really leave him off of a Houston stack?
I think in a game where it's going to turn into a home run game, I think you can.
Coors slate, there's a lot of options at second base. I think I agree with you.
You're playing Houston for the power upside, and I know Jose Altuve has 10 home runs, but we really don't expect that to continue forever. So if you're chasing power, I'm not going to pay $5,500 for a non-power guy.
I would take the under on 10 home runs by the end of the season, or 20 home runs by the end of the season for Altuve.
Yeah, I would completely agree.
Now, looking at the St. Louis side of things, I mentioned that I give out 3 fantasy draft guys I like every day. The second one comes from this game. It's Matt Adams at 6,800. CJ's shaking his head. He obviously knew that I was going to talk about Matt Adams.
Yeah, and I didn't spoil them for you. I was really proud. Normally I spoil your plays. I was happy I actually didn't mention that one before you got to say it.
I didn't even let you have a chance.
Yeah. There's everything you want to know about that game is there. And honestly, the Silent H, too, you can play him in cash as well.
Yeah, I like all these guys against Doug Fister. Fister, not a really guy, like a guy that's really going to dominate you. Only a 16% strikeout rate to righties, 12.5% to lefties. Not really going to dominate you, and I feel like this is a great spot for the Cardinals if you want to pivot off course.
Oh boy, pivot off of course. Yeah, I mean it's tough to pivot off of course, but this is where I'm doing it.
Or if you want to go with a $4,000 pitcher, get as much Coors and St. Louis exposure as you can.
Oh man, 4,600. Yeah, that's gonna be so interesting what to do in that like mega super rally. What do you do with that? Oh my goodness, this slate's gonna get fun. I hadn't noticed that price.
I think you it depends on how many teams you make, right?
Yeah,
if you're making like 5 teams, you might have like one Talon with Coors and fill in the bats, and then like 4 without, right?
Yeah, but I might be going for Brandon Finnegan too. 6,100 against the Braves. This feels like Friedrich Day all over again, doesn't it? And Finnegan actually has talent.
I just wish Friedrich Day was at Petco, though.
Yeah, this is in Atlanta, though. We're not exactly talking like.
That is true. You're right. It's not Chase Field.
No, exactly.
New York at Colorado. The Yankees visiting Coors Field. We just love these games. Nathan Eovaldi, Jorge De La Rosa. If there was ever a time to not look at the Yankees, their prices are ridiculous, and they suck against lefties.
If you don't play Starlin Castro in your cash games, you have to play him. You can't fade him.
I'm pulling up his price.
3-2 on FanDuel, 7,600 on draft. You can't not play him. You just can't.
I agree. You can't not play him.
Yeah. There's the CJ under 8K fantasy draft cash game play of the day.
There you go. I like that. We don't want the pitchers, right? I don't have to spend any time on that.
No, you couldn't talk me into rostering any of those guys. There's no scenario in which I would roster Jorge De La Rosa.
Eovaldi, decent ground ball rates to lefties and righties. I think that's interesting, but I still like Carlos Gonzalez, Blackman, Story. All these guys definitely in play here.
Isn't Eovaldi a straight fastball guy?
He is a straight fastball guy.
Yeah, does he have a sinker? I always forget. I never remember what his stat. Because anytime a sinker baller goes in the Coors, I immediately just stack against them. Automatic rule, because it just does not sink enough.
Yeah, no sinker.
No. All right. Well, you can still stack against Eovaldi, but I'm not quite as high as I was hoping to be.
Yeah, fastball and slider looks like his main 2 pitches here.
Yeah, it's not bad. Nothing that goes up and down. But it's still the Rockies and Coors, so play them.
We don't have to spend a lot of time. Give me 3 of your favorite bats from both teams.
I think it's worth noting the Yankees are actually favored in this game, which kind of was an immediate shock to me, which makes me think they think Alex Rodriguez is actually going to play the field in this game. And if he does, his price at 8,800, I think, merits consideration.
Well, he obviously can play first base, right?
You would think so, right? But he hasn't done it this year. So I'm really interested to see what they do. I don't think it's a stone cold lock. And I'm not fading the Yankees lefties, too, against De La Rosa. One of them will sit for Hicks, but one of them will play, and I'm not going to fade either Gardner or Ellsbury. I don't know who that will be, but
my sneaky play here. Nothing sneaky about this game, but Brian McCann has power against lefties. I think he's an interesting play here.
I doubt he starts, and you just maybe remember that Austin Romine is free on sites where you need a catcher. He's like 2.8 or 2.9.
You think he doesn't start? He sat Sunday too.
No chance.
Okay.
He hasn't started. When was the last time he started against a lefty? It's been a while.
That makes sense.
And Romine's been hitting the ball well, so I think they'll give him the start, and he's free.
Yeah, that's never a bad thing. A free catcher at Coors Field. Oh, it sounds terrible. Let's move on. Los Angeles at Arizona taking on the Diamondbacks. Kenta Maeda, Archie Bradley. I know last time we did the podcast, it was actually a Bradley start. You liked him. He struggled in that game against Tampa. It was only 5 hits, but those 5 hits, I think there was, 2 or 3 home runs?
Not even 4. It was, he had trouble keeping the ball in Chase Field. Similar kind of offense he faces today, except maybe a little better version of it. Not a guy I'm really interested in. On either side, actually. I think this game is kind of like the third game where you can kind of sneakily get some stacks here with a high total game and a good hitter spot.
Yeah, I love the bats here. I said it yesterday on the podcast, and then I had the 3:30 show with Derek yesterday, and I said if there's one guy that takes Greinke deep, it would be Corey Seager, and obviously he took Greinke deep. I love Seager here, man, and his price on FanDuel actually came down.
Yeah, it's a great spot for Seager, and I know we're kind of filling up the cash games super fast, but how would we not recommend David Peralta against the kind of middle-level righty who's at 6.6K?
Yeah, 6.6. It's just too cheap. I mentioned it. 380 WOBA career against right-handed pitching, 132 WRC plus, like 210 plus ISO, and it's higher at home. Like, I know he didn't really do anything in the game, last night, but this is a great spot to jump back on that train.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a very good spot here. I think it's worth considering.
Jake Lamb, another guy that I like a lot here. You can get on draft, you can get a lot of these bats cheap.
Yeah, I think it's really a good day. You can probably get enough value here to pay up at pitching, which is really going to be key on this slate. There's a couple of mid-tier guys we talked about, but most of the options here today are going to be at the higher end of the price spectrum.
Anything that really stands out to you here outside of, Corey Seager for the Dodgers?
I don't mind them as a stack. I think I would stack them if I was going to play them. I think there's enough power in that offense to consider the stack. But other than that, it's kind of I wouldn't play any of these guys as a one-off other than Seager.
I would definitely consider a game stack as a whole here. You get these guys at cheap, and you can really get a good pitcher. So you get, if you get an explosion type of game, and if you play Goldschmidt over Gonzalez to be different, because everybody's going to take Gonzalez at 3,300. I think you can really, be different here with this game.
Yeah, I really do agree with that. I think this is a good spot to be different.
Texas at Oakland, O.co, not a great ballpark for hitters, and we say that, and it's 14-4 in the 6th inning on Monday night. Martin Perez, Surkamp here. Any interest in either one of these guys?
Please don't let me recommend the guy I was talking to you about before the show. Just don't let me. Just cut me off and let's talk about the hitters.
All right, let's talk bats here.
All right, thank you.
Danny Valencia, 7,600. I like that price tag for him. They had him priced right, last night. It's too cheap this time, right?
Yeah. I mean, this is this is kind of like almost just they priced everyone down to the point now that they didn't price up Coors, but they've now priced everyone else down so much that you don't have to price up Coors. This could be a massive scoring night.
Yeah, I was thinking about that, before we got on the show, and I was watching the basketball game and stuff, and I was like, man, it seems like people are way too cheap tonight.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those. I mean, the pricing is normally pretty tight, but today it just does not feel tight at all.
Now, all right, so let's talk, Oakland. I mentioned Danny Valencia. Any other bats that you like here?
Yeah, in places you need a catcher. I mean, you're going to see Josh Phegley get another start. He's sick. He's pretty cheap. He's like 3K on DK, and Martin Perez is not very good. I just don't like to stack against him. He doesn't really get lit up a lot. I think that's kind of a trap spot on this slate. I'm going to target Oakland with 1 or 2 guys. I'm not going to stack. And I think the Oakland stack is going to get way too much play tomorrow.
Yeah, Oakland, when we're looking at Perez, he's a really high on-base percentage to righties, a really high whip, but a really low home run per 9. So I think CJ's spot on here. I don't think this is a spot you really want to go on with a full stack. Fegley, when you have to play a catcher, Valencia is just in play everywhere.
Yeah, and Crush Davis, but that's like, or Mini Crush, I guess is what we call him. But basically, like, those are the guys.
Dude, he's not Mini Crush. He has 15 home runs this season.
I know, I love him. He's my favorite. Like, that 3 home run game day he had, where it's like I was literally drawing to that to win any money. It was just amazing. It'll never happen again, but it was so much fun.
Texas bats here against Surkamp. I'll throw it out there, CJ. Before the show, we talked, and we were talking about Manaea pitching really well against Texas before he kind of had an injury before we got on here. I think Manaea is a better pitcher than Surkamp, so I'm not going to let you recommend Surkamp here. And I think you can look at maybe Ryan Rue and Ian Desmond here.
Yeah, what was up with this Texas lineup? I think that's what I just realized I never saw today because it was like the last lineup here. This lineup was pretty just much garbage from the start. They threw out four lefties against him. Like, if they do 4 lefties against Eric Surkamp tomorrow, like if they do this same lineup, boy, I mean, it's a lot easier. Not on FanDuel because you have a better pitcher cheaper, but at 4K, if you told me you were stacking cores and high upside bats and you were trying to get Bumgarner in, I wouldn't call you crazy.
Yeah, I don't know, man.
I know he's bad, but so was Sean Manaea. He was awful.
But Manaea has strikeout upside at least. This guy has 0 strikeout upside.
I mean,
that's the only point that I can make against
4K. You. He's 4K. Just give me 12.
4K on FanDuel?
DK.
Oh, DK. I was going to say because he's like 8K on draft.
Right. He's the minimum, basically. I could just get me to 12. And it wasn't just Sean Manaea pitching good. The Texas guys were just not identifying the pitches. They were just stuff that was blatantly a ball from the moment it left his hand, and they were not even coming close to it. That's kind of what got me interested.
And it's fair points, man. It's fair points. There's 0 upside.
Yeah, but you wouldn't be using him on a team where you need him for upside, right? You're paying up for Bumgarner and Coors. That's the only scenario in which you would ever use him.
Yeah, you need him to go out and get you 10 to 12 points.
Right, and then you need the Coors to go off. But that's basically the only scenario you would use him.
You need you need 6 innings from him, giving up a few runs and not really getting pounded and leaving after the second or third.
That'd be amazing. That started in New York where he gave up 2 runs over 5 2/3. Sign me up for that one.
Minnesota at Los Angeles taking on the Angels. Irvin Santana, Chacin pitching against each other here. Any interest in either one of these guys?
No, both these guys are just. I guess you could talk me into Chacin, but definitely not Irvin Santana. But Chacin is not terrible, but. Again, on this slate, I feel like there's just enough guys with enough upside that it's just the wrong slate.
Yeah, I have no interest in either one of these guys here. Don't love the bats. I really don't love anything outside of maybe Nunez, Grossman, where he's cheap, and honestly, maybe Calhoun on FanDuel.
Yeah, I think that's completely fair. The top of that Minnesota order would just simply be based on who's catching and if they can throw out runners. If they can't throw out runners, then Newman Grossman obviously is a nice 2-man combo to get.
Grossman 6K over on draft. If he bats in that 2 spot, I would have a lot of interest over there on for that price tag.
Yeah, feels like it's everybody's free here today on Tuesday.
I almost considered him as my 3rd fantasy draft play.
I wouldn't blame you. He's been on fire.
Any interest in any of the Angels bats?
Calhoun, you mentioned him. That offense just does not. It's kind of bad.
We're gonna need to see Trout do some stuff over the next couple of days, right? He took a pitch in the hand. I know he was back in the lineup, but he was DHing, so they're babying him a little bit. Up until we started, I don't think he did anything too crazy. So I need to see some stuff before I start paying up for Trout again.
Yeah, I can't imagine I would pay up for him at any point in the near future.
So just to make you feel good, JB Shuck just hit a double, so he got his first multi-hit game.
There it is. And there's
Or
his first extra base hit. There it is.
Base hit.
There it is. He's getting hot, boys.
Miami at San Diego. Drew Pomerantz against Tom Kohler. I got some heat here because I called Pomerantz Pomerantz. It's because he's just a guy that I love. I love the name because he either goes out and like strikes out a bunch of guys or he gets popped. So that's where the name came from. It actually came from Grinders Live last year. So it is what it is. I'll call him Pomerantz if it's going to offend you guys. I'll call him that. No problem. I like him here. The Marlins coming off of a game where they went double digits in runs. Pomerantz coming off of a game where he really struggled. This looks like a really good spot for a bounce back game.
If I told you could have a pitcher that's averaged 14 or it's averaged has had double digit points in all but one start this year for the low price of 14.4, would you be interested?
Of course I would be.
Then why are you? Well, let's talk some Tom Kohler, baby. Everyone remembers that game where he got -17, but his other starts this year 20, 13, 27, 12, 12, 11, 15, 15, 23, pitching now in Petco against the weak Padres team.
You don't have to sell me on it, honestly. I think Kohler's an interesting option here. He doesn't give up a lot of home runs to righties. He's going to see a lot of right-handed bats in this lineup. The upside is not really high, but see, I want him to win, and I just don't know if he'll get the win here.
Yeah, I just think it's a really good spot for him. Like, it's DraftKings or it's fantasy DraftKings, and it's just the win isn't meaning. Like, I'm probably not going to play him on FanDuel where the win is so important, but on sites where the win isn't that important. Like, I feel like his upside is just high enough, and I feel like he's just safe enough where I can plug him in there at 7,200.
If there was ever a time to play Tom Kohler, this is the spot.
Right. There's not many other safe options there in that kind of mid-tier, and like he's kind of it.
Yeah, I don't hate it, man. I honestly don't. I really don't hate it.
Yeah, and you're going to get him super low owned because I think if you're in that range, people are going to just find the money to pay up for Finnegan, which is fine, but he's still Brandon Finnegan.
Yeah, he's still Finnegan. So, yeah, like I said, I don't hate it. I really don't. I just don't think there's a lot of upside, but honestly, really, at his price tag, you really don't need a lot of upside. He gets you 15 fantasy points. You're in a good shot.
Yeah. The problem is he faces the hottest hitter on the planet right now.
Will Myers is screaming, dude. I'm hoping that's who you're talking about.
Yeah, it is.
Okay. He's screaming hot, and I talked about him yesterday and said that he was a great play because nobody would play him, and of course he hit a home run, but every first baseman hit a home run, so it really didn't matter. His price actually came down. I don't get how these sites price people. I really don't.
The funny thing is, too, it's the exact same spot we were talking about yesterday. No one's going to play Will Myers again. Nobody.
Yeah.
They're going to get him exactly like 1% again.
I liked him a lot more on Monday's slate than I do here.
I agree with you, but the situation is like when you're this hot, it really doesn't matter who you're facing at some point.
Yeah, I agree. Matt Kemp still 3,100 over on FanDuel. I don't hate that play there.
Yeah, I think I'll let you have that play.
That's fine. I'll take that play. Any bats that you want here for Miami?
No, not really. It's kind of I do like Pomerantz too. I should have probably mentioned that, but if I was playing on Miami bat, it'd probably be Real Muto where I need a catcher, but I just don't have a ton of interest in this spot. No
love for Ozuna, huh?
I mean, he was hot for a while, but pretty sure he's just been cooling off a little bit of late. It's just not. I mean, I guess he's keyed back up a little bit, but I don't know.
I love him against lefties. His stats against lefties are ridiculous, and nobody plays this guy. I have a little interest. I'm not going to go crazy with it. I might have him and Prado on a team together just because I like both these guys against left-handed pitching.
I just can't pay more for Ozuna than a guy like Adam Duvall, for example. Like I'll just play Adam Duvall for less, or I'll play Jay Bruce for less. I can't pay that price for him.
Fair point. Fair point. Let's talk about this last game. Hey, it took us 14 games to get to the guy we want in cash games. Madison Bumgarner against Matt Garza. Garza making his first start off the DL. Bumgarner's your cash game pitcher, right?
If you like winning money.
Yeah, Milwaukee, they're better against lefties, yada, yada, yada. You can say whatever you want to say. It's Madison Bumgarner at home. Give me Bumgarner here in this matchup.
Yeah, 6.5 total minus 260. Like, I actually have interest in the over, but it's basically because of the Giants. I love this spot for the Giants.
Yep, and before I let you steal the show here, my favorite and third bet from the fantasy draft under 8K. I'll let you guess. Under 8K fantasy draft, who would I have here in cash games?
Brandon Crawford.
Crawford is a guy that I love, and I do think he's in play. Denard Span at 6,800 is too cheap for a leadoff hitter.
Yeah, fine. I mean, he hasn't really done much lately, though. To be honest, I think
first inning home run off Chase Anderson.
Oh my goodness, that was a blast.
Oh, I just
when that thing landed in the water, I just knew that I had a lot of Chase Anderson tonight. The pitch before it was a close pitch and he didn't get it, and I was like, oh my goodness. And then Span hits one in the water, and I was like, oh, this is good.
Night over.
This is gonna be a rough one, folks. Let's hang in there.
Yeah, you have to think a guy like Span's just going to eventually get going. And what better than a matchup with Matt Garza? Probably going to end up being you would think a bullpen game, right? Like, we don't see Garza going like 6, 7, 8 innings here, do we?
I certainly hope not. I mean, I think he's on a pitch count too, isn't he?
I haven't seen anything about the pitch count yet. He only threw 5 innings in his last rehab start. I would be really shocked if he goes deep into this game.
Yeah, and Lucroy can't throw either. And if I remember correctly, Garza can't hold anyone on. So that's not a bad spot for Span.
Yep, Span, Panic, Posey, Belt, Crawford, all these guys are in play here against Garza.
Yeah, totally fine.
I'm assuming no, but any Milwaukee bats that you like here against Bumgarner?
No.
I had to ask. I can't give you the shoe.
Yeah, no, I absolutely not.
All right, that's going to move us on over to Home Run Derby. Eric got one last night. I got one, and I only had 2 guys today because EE wasn't in the lineup. So, let's see what you can do here. Siege, I'll let you go first.
Starlin Castro. I know it's Coors, but I'm taking a second baseman. I feel like that's fair.
I'll allow it this one time. I usually don't allow Coors Field.
I can go somewhere else. That's fine.
It's fine. I'll let you take a second baseman.
All right.
I'm going to go Matt Adams. I'm going to stick to my guns here.
I wish you just banned him. That was who I was going to take. Yeah, good decision letting me keep Castro. All right.
I agree. Great decision.
We're pivoting away off of Coors, obviously. Yeah, I like a lot of guys that just aren't going to – I don't think are going to hit home runs today, to be honest. I feel a lot of conflict. The Peraltas, I think they're going to be fine. I just don't think they're going to hit home runs. Let me take – God, this is really tough. You know what? I'm just going to take JD Martinez.
JD?
Yeah.
Okay.
JD.
He almost ended the game with a home run, or didn't end the game, but he almost had a 2-run homer in the 12th of that game. It would have been really interesting. Yeah, I'm going to stick to that game. I'm going to go Springer.
Okay. Is there a Springer on?
No, I meant Adams, Springer. I'm sticking to the same game. George Springer, Houston, St. Louis.
Okay. Oh, boy. Let me take Adam Eaton. I just think he's going to have a monster game off of Jordan Zimmerman. Maybe one of them gets over the fence.
You're hoping for a line drive that barely clears the fence, right?
Yeah. I just love Adam Eaton tomorrow, and I just wanted to say his name one more time.
I'm going to go Danny Valencia as my last one here. I like his spot tonight.
Yeah, I looked at him. I think he'll get a couple doubles. I'm not really wild about his home run potential in this spot. I want to go off the board with this last one too, to a game we didn't talk much about.
Well, You're gonna take 4 on me here?
Oh, did I take a third?
Yeah, you said Castro, JD, and Eaton.
Oh, that's right. Well,
We'll break the rules. Give me a 4.
+1 for the viewers. It's a guy you like, actually, Jay Bruce.
All right, we'll go 4. Who cares? We can break the rules and do what I want. Threw me off a little bit. Let's see. I want somebody in this game right here. I'm gonna go Votto. You went Bruce. I went Votto. I want the hot game, and if it plays, that'll give people some ideas of what we want in that game.
Yeah, I think that's this really sneak. I forgot about we talked about that game so early, but it's such a sneaky spot too. Like Coors is going to get all the attention, and rightly so. But there's some really good non-Coors plays on this slate tonight.
If you had to pick one pitcher at the end of the night to have a win, and doesn't mean he has to score the most fantasy points, but you think he's going to pick up the win tonight, cannot be Madison Bumgarner.
Yeah, it becomes a really tough. You pull him off the board. There's not a ton of huge favorites on the board, other than Jacob deGrom, and I just can't pick him without knowing who the catcher is going to be. So
that's such a fair point.
This is no gimme. I'm going to go off the board here. I'm going to say Brandon Finnegan.
That's not a terrible pick in any means. So I don't hate it, honestly. I'm going to go a little different here, and it's really hard for me not to take this guy. I'm going to go Teheran here, opposite of you.
So you really think the Braves are going to get score enough runs off Finnegan to get that their bullpen can hold it for the win?
It's more of this game's going to be close until both these pitchers come out, and I feel like the Cincinnati bullpen's worse.
Yeah, but if the game ends up tied at any point, you lose the win, right? So you're that confident. I took Brandon Finnegan. I guess I really can't be complaining. I just think Brandon Finnegan throws a gem here in this spot.
I like Teheran to throw a gem too, man.
Yeah, this game is just probably the answer is probably that neither of these guys are that likely to get a win because both these bullpens are so bad. They blow so many.
We picked the 2 worst bullpens in baseball.
But where else does it go? Like, where else do you get any confidence? It's just like every other guy has just massive question marks. It's just like, honestly, the answer is probably like Josh Tomlin. But it's like, you're really gonna pick Josh Tomlin and hedge your hopes on?
Yeah, and then you're if it's a close game in that game, you're going against the Kansas City bullpen. You make a good point here, because where you have Lackey, you have Gio. Where you have David Price, you have Chris Tillman. Just going down the line, like this is why you guys should really pay attention to this. This is the reason on FanDuel you really want to have Bumgarner in your cash lineup.
And I think this is proving why you're going to want to have him in a vast majority of your tournament teams too, if you can make it work.
Yeah, and we gave you guys a ton of value plays that you should be able to make it work.
Yeah, this slate actually is a lot more narrow after doing this podcast than I thought before. Like, I thought it was a pretty wide slate, but now that I'm kind of like seeing it's going to be pretty narrow options, to be honest, in the pitching department. I
think I'll take my Teheran back, and I'll raise you with Tom Koehler. I like his spot to pick up a win in San Diego.
Why didn't I think of that? That was the answer. The answer was Tom Koehler.
Got it. Yeah, I'll let you have a Finnegan. I'll retract my Teheran, and I'll go Koehler.
That's a very smart play of you, sir. I'm stuck here wishing I could trade, but I can't.
I make the rules around here. Where else? Maybe Chacin as another cheap guy that could pick up a win, but you're really. Ervin Santana has been bad in his last couple starts. I know we didn't really talk about that too much, but his last 4 starts, he's given up at least 6 hits in each one of those starts. Yeah, I mean, that's the problem though. Like, every one of these guys just has, like, you can see potential and you can see major question marks. It's this isn't gonna be. Like, no, that's why Tom Koehler just is so tempting, because it's just like you feel like he's safe. And there's just nothing else safe on this slate. Like this, everyone else could just blow up around you, and you sitting there with Tom Koehler and your 20 points, and you feel like you're in heaven. Listen to what you just said, and on that note, That's going to wrap it up here for the podcast. Nice 14 games. I appreciate you coming on with me, CJ. It was a lot of fun. If you guys haven't checked out our sponsor site, fantasydraft.com, make sure you guys check them out. They got their $1,000 Survive and Advance tournament. They have an $8,000 home run. They have a ton of tickets to the PGA tournaments. They have a lot of stuff going on. And they have their $10,000 U.S. Open Tour Card tournament this weekend. So $25 buy-in on that thing. And you can only enter it 10 times. So you're not playing against guys that are playing 50 entries in a tournament in golf. So if you like some guys that you like, throw an entry in that. Use promo code Grinders. That way you get incentives here at Roto Grinders for free for a year for Fantasy Draft. And you get a 100% deposit bonus up to $600. For CJ, I'm Stevie TPFL. We'll be back tomorrow morning. Good luck in your contest tonight, and we'll see you then.